Hello all, welcome back to Doing Projects with me, Professor B. As usual, you should have your Word document open. I'm going to work through the first several portions of this Word document. So if you miss a step, that's a good resource for you to use. So we're going to go to Shared Projects, and we're going to go to BYGROUP Stat 215. And remember, this is extremely important. We talk about this every week, but you need to check the box here, because if you go to knit, after you've edited this document, it's really only a read-only, and knitting saves it, so it won't let you knit. So to save yourself future headaches, check the box. And then we go to copy to, and then we're going to go home, and then into our stat 215, and then save. All right, now I'm going to go back home, and that's where I want to open it. So you should have this file path, home, stat 215, and then be careful to open just the analysis of one quantitative variable part 2. Last week we did part 1. Reba, that should say. GBSU 215. Anyway, I'll fix that later. Now remember, the best plan of attack is to always work your way from the top down. And so you can put, today is whatever the date is the day to do a project. Make sure that you leave those words in green, and the way to do that is make sure the quotes are on there. We're going to work our way down running each chunk. Now, last week, some of you did not run. And remember, if you see these red words, that's fine. It's just connecting it. Last week, some of you did not run the whole data chunk. You just ran the line, reading in the data, which in the situation where I have given you all the lines of code, remember that I tell you to work your way from the top down. So if you're going to run code line by line like this, then you need to do it line by line. Not usually, every time I give you a data chunk, you can just push that green triangle to make sure it runs the entire chunk. So some of you, because you did not run it, you were getting errors because you didn't tell R that periods were missing values, which is why on your two-way tables you were having issues. Okay, so I like to clean all this stuff up before I get to the output, which is where we are now. So today we're doing the infamous how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And we have new variables this week. We're doing weight and licks, and we're doing it by eater. So the eater types that we have are savorers and devourers. So you'll notice that I do have the correct spelling and capitalization. And you need to remember that the S's are important. It has to be exactly the same. We couldn't do just lick. It would give us an error. So our data name here, remember, is whatever we assign it to before that left-handed arrow. So here it's going to be Tootsie, and I'm just going to change both of these at the same time just because it's quicker for me. And then eater is our BYGROUP. And then this first piece of output we're doing is for weight and then licks. So again, this time you can't do the whole chunk because we haven't edited all of this code. So this time, unlike the data chunk, I am going to highlight those lines and then use my shortcut keys. Now remember too that every time you create output, it goes to the bottom of your code chunk. So you can see here that it's creating our 5-number summary. It gives you the mean, the standard deviation, and the sample size. So I asked you about some of those things specifically. It asks you in the R project in Blackboard for the IQR. So while it doesn't technically say what the IQR is, it does give you the numbers necessary for being able to calculate that. So for questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it looks like those all will be answered based on this piece of output. All right, next we're going to move into the box plots, and this will start to help you answer questions about variability. So again, same data set. It's always going to be whatever is listed over here. So our data that we're calling for is Tootsie, and I'm going to paste that in. And then we're doing it for weight, and we're doing it for licks. And again, I gave you the exact spelling and capitalization, so you can just copy and paste that. And remember that copying and pasting is the best method, because then you know that it's exactly correct, versus if you try to spell it or type it out yourself. It seems silly, but a lot of people don't have the attention to detail to see if they did make an error. I know it sounds odd, but that's the truth of it. Okay. So after you run those 2 lines, remember that your output will go to the bottom of the chunk, and you have to be careful because if you run them together, you'll actually have 2 separate box plots, one for licks and one for weight. Whichever line, you ran last, will show up first. So the first question that it asks you about is, the variability for these 2 groups, comparing devour and savor, and it also asks you to compare the medians. Now, remember from the notes, you're looking for a visual similarity, so you can see that the range of this is quite large compared to the range for devour. You can also see that the boxes do not overlap, which indicates that they have fairly different medians. Whew. All right, next one we're going to do is putting all of the heights together. So we were doing it by a group above, but now we're going to just be doing simply height, because you're going to be using that information to create a calculation of the empirical rule. So again, copying and pasting is the best method. It's most foolproof. And also remember that you've got multiple pieces of output if you run them all the same. So here I ran those 2 together. So when you run them all together or at the same time, you would have the first line coming in, the first piece of output on the left, and then the last line will be the last piece of output on the right. So we would say that that's fairly symmetric, it's fairly bell-shaped, and so you'll be able to use that information to answer questions about the empirical rule that comes up on question 11. All right, and then for question 12, we're creating a side-by-side histogram. So here we have the data, and then we're doing it for licks. And our by group for this one, is it still eater type? Our new by group is chewing. So chewing, this is the one that I want to copy. Now I'm going to be brave and just type chewing. But you could, if you wanted to, use this names option up here in line 26. If you run that, it will tell you the names, and then you can just copy and paste the variable name from there. So you can see those are the exact same. All right, and when I run those, I get 2. I do not get 2 histograms. I only got 1. Why did you do that? Oh, I didn't change the by group. What just happened there? Oh, I'm a silly Billy. All right, this, when it's in all caps, is what we need to change. That grouping variable I shouldn't have changed. It should say group equals. So that was my bad. Don't make that same mistake. Interesting, it didn't give me an error. All right, so those are our 2 histograms, and when you compare these 2 for question 12, I want you to talk about those 4 areas. So compare their shapes, compare their spreads or variability, compare the centers, and then compare whether or not you think they have outliers. Sometimes for this stuff, it is easier to look back at the numeric summaries as opposed to trying to read what you think the center would be on the graph. So use that information to help you. All right, I think that's the whole project. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, happy coding.